Hey people, thanks for coming to my channel. So it's now the second day of the COP26 summit in Glasgow. No doubt there'll be a lot to say about that. I've just seen a headline that leaders have pledged to end deforestation by 2030. Now, these sort of grand promises are, they're just that, they're grand, but ultimately words matter less than actions. And I also think that without Jair Bolsonaro in the room, it's obviously, well, a problem because Bolsonaro, the Brazilian president, presides over the world's biggest ecosystem. Just for the record, I think Bolsonaro is an appalling leader. I think he's irresponsible. I think he's a demagogue. I think he's a terrible leader in many ways. Um, he's not called Tropical Trump for nothing. But nevertheless, he is a leader of a major power. Hopefully, by 2030, he will be kicked out of office and a more responsible leader will be in his place. Um, Now, I get it. The Amazon is in Brazilian territory, largely. Some of it goes into Peru and Colombia, I believe a little bit in Ecuador as well. But um, it is a unique ecosystem. It is the lungs of the world. It's unique. So, a lot of countries have national parks and so on, but the Amazon is unique. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. It's about a related issue, which is Saint Greta Thunberg. Um, I made a video on her previously, and I thought that would suffice. But once again, she's being propped up as this messiah, this wonder child, whose word we have to follow. Being honest, I'm a little bit tired of her, and I am certainly tired of the personality cult around her. So she was at a protest outside Glasgow, outside the conference in Glasgow. I'm not sure where it's being held, if it's a Scottish Exhibition Centre, colloquially known as the Armadillo. I think that's where it's being held. But she was at a protest and she said, no more blah, blah, blah. This is typical Greta Thunberg. She has no solutions, she has no answers. All she does is come out with these pretty rude rants. Um, and what I found particularly obnoxious a few days ago was her saying that sometimes people need to be made angry. She was referring to Insulate Britain protests, which have obviously angered a lot of people. Um, it was reported that some of those activists had ink squirted on them, and the man who'd done it, a DJ from Harlow in Essex, has been widely praised. I think that just reflects public opinion, which is contempt for these idiots. A retired doctor was among those who got ink on him. Now, the guy even said it, think, ostensibly to reassure him it wasn't something more dangerous. But, it's unpleasant, and that was deliberate. Well, you're going to inconvenience thousands of people. This is what you get. It's unfortunate that it's escalated, but I've no sympathy with them. As for the retired doctor, who is named as Christian, 77 years old, he's a retired doctor. I mean, this is a guy that has spent a career helping people, and now he is gluing himself to a road, stopping people potentially getting to hospital. I mean, he needs to have a word with himself. I really think a lot of these activists are older people, and people often say, "Oh, well, they're pensioners, treat them with respect and so on." But there is another argument, which is he's had 77 years to know that such tactics won't work. Um, but for Greta Thunberg to endorse these extremists, I think shows where she is at. Um, she's just in a bubble. I mean, a bubble surrounded by her sycophants and idolaters, adulators, I should say. That's honestly what it feels like. David Starkey compared it to the medieval child personality cults. I think he was referring to the fact that in the Middle Ages you had these sort of cults put around children. Sometimes there was anti-Semitic tropes behind them, because there was a few incidents where children were murdered, the Jews were blamed. With the passage of time, we'll probably never know the truth. Little St. Hugh of Lincoln, I believe, was one, and there were others. But I think he was also touching on the fact that in the 17th century, you had these millenarian cults, sort of doomsday cults that believed it was all going, the world going to end. Now, I think I'm not a climate denier. I think that the issue of climate change is a very grave one, and we do see an increase in floods. I think no one could deny that the polar ice caps are melting, um, and I think no one could deny that rising temperatures is a problem. I mean, 49 degrees in British Columbia this year. That's staggering. That's like the sort of temperature you get in the Gulf states, even higher in Canada. So there is clearly a pressing issue with this. What I don't agree with some eco-activists on is their dystopian claims. For example, that billions of people will die in the next decade. That's extreme hyperbole and it's very irresponsible. It's scaring children. Let's put that into context. The world has almost 8 billion people. Now, if billions were to die, that would be just an astronomical figure. That would be like the entire population of Africa, several fold. I think it's plausible that thousands will die, possibly millions if there's related famine. But billions? That's just extreme hyperbole. Consider this the bloodiest war in human history, World War II, somewhere between 65 and 80 million deaths, depending on the source. Now, they're saying billions will die. So that would be like 10 World War IIs um, from one climate event. I think that is extremely reckless hyperbole. But that doesn't mean there isn't issues. Getting back to Greta Thunberg, though, I'm so tired of the fact that, the media's propped her up as well. It isn't just her supporters. Greta Thunberg says this, Greta Thunberg says that. What's her qualifications? Has she ever taken a course in, climate science? She hasn't even went to university. She's just a teenager from Sweden who has been propped into this cult figure. Um, And I really do think that there are some, I was going to say adults, technically she is an adult now because, her supporters, they always get into this attack mode. Oh, you're attacking a young woman for being passionate. No, she's being legitimately criticized because she is a public figure. If it's okay for Greta Thunberg to make these rants and demands of world leaders, then as a public figure, it's legitimate for her to be questioned, i.e., who's funding you, or who's propping you up, or what would your solution be? It's fine to say blah 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 and endorse criminal activity and just be obnoxious, but she doesn't actually offer solutions. Now, I would contrast this to someone like Sir David Attenborough, who is eloquent. He's passionate as well, but he can speak in a much more eloquent and less polarizing way. I wouldn't mind hearing from climate scientists. I mean, they're the people we should be listening to, not an entitled teenager who, frankly, she's just propped up into this position where, it's like she is a leader of sorts. I mean, it's pathetic. I think it is just a bit. I think it's actually a little bit creepy, if I'm being honest. I mean, adults, people who are older than her, worshipping her, just a little bit creepy. Um, I think the media need to stop pandering to her. What's she done? I mean, what has she actually achieved? She's managed to certainly influence Extinction Rebellion. She's managed to probably have influence on a lot of other young people who think that, the louder you shout, the more that you'll get things done. But it doesn't work that way. Being part of democracy, peaceful protest, all those things are very important. And there's nothing wrong with being passionate about something. So my issue with Greta Thunberg isn't that she's passionate, it's the obnoxious way she goes about it. You can't just make these angry rants and not offer solutions. When I talk about something I'm angry about, I offer alternatives. Okay? It's easy to criticize, but you have to offer alternatives. And Greta doesn't. Demands action, but then when world leaders are gathering for a critical summit, all she does is come out with these sarcastic retorts. And maybe this will be a huge failure. But I don't think any climate activist could say, oh, well, it isn't being taken seriously. When world leaders are gathered in a British city to try and do something, maybe it will be a huge failure. I don't know. But I think it does refute their claim that nothing's being done. So, and I think the media has a part to play in this. They need to do their job and stop sort of fawning over her. Um, but then again, any journalist who asks her a tough question will probably be heckled and targeted by her sycophants. I mean, she actually ran away from reporters the other day. It was fine for her to dish out abuse and to, well, to make rants, but when the questions turn on her, she can't handle it. Or rather, when she does interviews, it's all choreographed with reminders like, these are the list of approved questions. I just think there's something a bit off about it. And I don't know, maybe in the future when she's growing up, when she's my age or older, I think that it's almost like a child star. She's been in the bubble for so long, surrounded by people who just say yes to her, that I don't think she would be able to handle criticism. I mean, it's just a bit of a strange phenomenon because when she's older, how's she going to look back on this? Is it going to, I think it's going to give her a massive ego complex. You know, her typical supporters would say, "Oh, you're a jealous guy. You're attacking a young woman." I wish no harm against Greta Thunberg. What I'm saying is, as a public figure, she's not above reproach. And because these issues are so important, they require intelligence. They require action for sure, but they also require intelligence. And the thing that climate activists need to understand as well is that leaders have a lot of things to balance. Boris Johnson, Emmanuel Macron, Joe Biden, numerous others, they have a lot of things to consider. Climate is one of them, but balancing economies after a devastating pandemic, a host of other domestic and foreign policy issues. So they're not in that position. Anyway, I'll wrap this up. I'm just tired of the Greta cult myself. I'll probably be making other videos in Glasgow because I don't want to make it just about activists, give them more importance than they deserve. There are real issues around this, and I'll be making more videos about those in due course. Thanks for watching.